like all journeys, motherhood being one of them, the more prepared you are, the better. Like, think about literally, you want to drive to a destination or you want to travel somewhere, like you have to prepare for it. You need to know where you're going. You need a map or a compass or directions, maybe some food, the right clothes, the right gear. Without all of these things, it's it's going to be really hard, and you might still succeed. You might get to where you want to go. But the way that you get there, whether you get there with your nerves and your sanity intact, will be massively influenced by how prepared you are. And I think the same is true with motherhood. Welcome to the Mama Circle podcast with me, your host, Natalie K. Martin, but please call me Nat. As mums, we know that motherhood is full of magic, but it also comes with hidden costs that honestly we were just not prepared for. Exhaustion, the mental load, the money squeeze, the way our relationships and sense of self get stretched so thin that they almost break. I call this the motherhood debt, and this podcast is a safe, judgment and shame-free zone where we talk about it all. I'm going to be bringing you personal stories, conversations with other moms, and practical tools to help you feel less alone and more supported as you go along this wild roller coaster ride of motherhood. So whether you're joining me on your 2 a.m. night feed, out and about running errands, or cooking dinner for your family, I want you to know that you are doing big and important work. And in case nobody has told you this today, you've got this. So if you're ready, let's jump in. Hello, my loves. Welcome back for another week, another episode with me, Nat, here on the Mama Circle. As always, if you are returning, then thank you. It's so nice to have you back. And if you're brand new, then I hope that you like what you're going to hear. There's a whole back catalogue of episodes to help you through this honestly quite insane ride that is motherhood. And today I wanted to talk about motherhood being a transition specifically, because I've been really thinking about this a lot lately. I think there are certain points in our lifetimes where we go from being one way or in one state of being to another. And motherhood is really one of those big points. And I think that it's one of the things that we are least prepared for. And the reason why I got to thinking about this, it's going to sound really unrelated, but I saw a really interesting post on Instagram, which was posted by a death doula. And she was supporting someone through the process of dying. I'm pretty sure this lady had cancer. I think she was like maybe in her 50s. And it just was really moving to hear how she had prepared for the transition of death, because that is what it is, right? Death is a transition. You go from being alive to being dead and maybe going somewhere else, who knows? But it was really moving to hear like the level of intention and preparation that she had obviously done. So, obviously her papers and everything were in order, but also she invited her nearest and dearest around. All of her favorite foods were there. They had beautiful music. She spent individual one-on-one time with everyone. And there was a feeling for me reading the words and looking at the pictures on this post that she really wanted to make her transition as smooth as possible. It just made me think about like death being a journey, and like all journeys, motherhood being one of them, the more prepared you are, the better. Like think about literally, you want to drive to a destination or you want to travel somewhere, like you have to prepare for it. You need to know where you're going. You need a map or a compass or directions, maybe some food, the right clothes, the right gear. Without all of these things, it's it's going to be really hard, and you might still succeed. You might get to where you want to go. But the way that you get there, whether you get there with your nerves and your sanity intact, will be massively influenced by how prepared you are. And I think the same is true with motherhood. A couple of other transitions that spring to mind. Menopause. It's also a transition that is not widely spoken about. It's definitely getting better. I mean, think about people like Davina McCall and Halle Berry and Drew Barrymore and, like all of these people, they're really speaking a lot about menopause now and talking about a lot of the lesser known side effects and symptoms and things. For those of you who are maybe starting to come into perimenopause now, the Red School are a great resource for this, about how to handle the transition of perimenopause. But like a lot of the transitions that we go through in our lives, whether it is puberty, whether it's getting married, which is, going from singlehood or being in a relationship to officially governmentally recognized partnership, menopause, all these things. We tend to prepare a lot for the tangible. We prepare for the things that we can see, the things that we can check off on a list, and maybe the things that help to give us a feeling of control. So let's think about motherhood. How do most of us prepare for motherhood? A lot of us prepare for the birth. Makes total sense because it's this huge thing. We know that we have to go through it. There's no choice in the matter. It doesn't matter whether you have an elective cesarean, whether you have a totally natural birth, whether you hypnobirth, water birth, all the rest of it. It's unavoidable. That's how you're going to get your baby. And so it does make sense that we kind of focus our attention on it. And also because we want to bring our babies safely into the world. Like that's the main thing that I think most moms to be or, expectant again moms worry about. Like just bring me and my baby through this process safely. So we have things like antenatal classes, hypnobirthing, doulas. We sometimes write really elaborate birth plans from how we want to birth to the music we want to have, to people that we want to have around us, to how long we don't cut the cord for, to all these things. Like birth plans can get super, super, super in depth. We think about our hospital bag and, what we want to bring with us. We set up a whole nursery with things that the baby probably doesn't even need until they're like a year old. We buy clothes, we have baby showers, there's so many things, yoga, pregnancy yoga, breath work, massage, rubbing oil in our perineums, all of these things. And they're really focusing on this transition, which is a transition, like labor is a transition, but we're focusing on that specific event, which is a few days at most. But what we're less prepared for is what comes after. I think this is kind of where we are missing a trick here, because we go through that one event of birth. And then, if we're lucky, maybe you've got some postpartum support as well. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say that for most people, we put all of our emphasis on the birth, the pregnancy, coming through that. And then we are at home with the baby. And then we've got to go through the rest of our lives as moms and all of the things that entails. So we've got things that help us with the practical side of things, like how to change a diaper, how to calculate when your child needs to sleep, what should they eat when you're weaning them, all of these things. But what I'm realizing as time goes on, those are the easy things. And I appreciate that if you're like a brand new mom and you're in this postpartum, like, it might not feel easy to you. I appreciate that you might feel really overwhelmed with everything. But what I'm realizing as time goes on, it's like those things are easy because there's someone who can tell you how to do those things, how to wean your baby, what to feed them, all of these kinds of the developmental milestones. But mothering is not getting any easier. And I'm always reminded of this phrase, it doesn't get easier, it just gets different. And it is very, very true. For sure, some things become less important or less stressful or just more automatic. But it can honestly feel like, for me as a mom, going through constant transition after transition, going from baby mum to toddler mum to now working mum, it can honestly feel relentless. And I think there wasn't one particular moment. There's just been a kind of like a waking up or a realization that I have not been prepared for motherhood. I've been prepared for being pregnant. I've been prepared for giving birth. I've been prepared for, the steps of how to keep my baby safe in its first weeks, months, a couple years, and that will obviously continue. But for me as a mom, and how I am constantly being asked to stretch and develop and release control and all of these things as I continually transition to become a new mum. Every developmental phase requires something new. I realize that I am massively underprepared for this, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. And the more that I think about, okay, what's going to be coming in my future, I feel even less prepared for these things. And I think it's maybe taken until now, because right now my son is just about to turn 3 in like 2-3 months' time. So up until now, there's been very set milestones, and okay, it varies for each child, but roughly around this age, they'll start crawling, they'll start eating, they'll start walking, they'll start talking. And I feel like now we're in this stage of toddlerhood where he can do most things. And now where I'm really starting to see like his personality, I'm starting to enter the world of, like school and looking down the line, I'm thinking, these things feel a little bit less tangible. They feel a little bit less, I can tick that off. And so how do I deal with that? How do I support myself, and how do I find support for the transition that will go into me being a mom with a school-age child? A child who will have his own friendships, who will have his own hobbies. How will I be the mom who can handle all of his questions about life? How will we transition into being co-parents living in separate household? Things like how to deal with the tantrums that he has, how to deal with, I'm a single mom, maybe eventually I'll want to date someone. How does that work? How do I transition to being a mom who also has a life of her own? There's so many things that feel like they're on the horizon at different time points, but they're there nonetheless. And all of the preparation that I've had has been for things that have already gone. And I think that, going back to this motherhood being a journey, this is a continual journey, getting into teenage years and then when they get old enough to go out into the world and work or travel or date and all these things on them, I just feel like there needs to be so many more conversations about the realities. And it doesn't matter if the reality is a quote unquote good one or a quote unquote challenging one, but there needs to be more conversations about this. There needs to be more preparation, because honestly, it can feel like you're in a bit of a blind spot. And I think that we are not prepared for the fact that we don't have an off switch anymore. There is no end to motherhood. There are things you won't be expected to do anymore. There'll be things that they can do by themselves. But you're constantly needed in varying ways. And I was speaking about this with my therapist actually last week, and her kids are like grown. I think they're in their 20s now. And, she said they still need her. They'll still call and, need her advice or need her support. And it's just different. You're not wiping bums anymore. You're not feeding anymore. But it's different. And I think that we are not prepared for the fact that this is a journey that it doesn't have an expiry date. And normally when we think about transitions, it's like we're going from A to B. And with motherhood, it's like we go from A to B to C to D to E, all the way around to Z and then back again and starting again from A. And I think part of the reason that people don't talk about it is, personally, I think, because if you were to say all of this in a really honest, unfiltered and very candid way, I think that we're afraid of scaring women. I think that we're afraid of putting them off. I think that we're afraid of being seen as ungrateful. I saw a post on Instagram a few days ago that really irritated me, because it was that exact thing. Like, you should not complain about finding motherhood hard. And it's like, well, why? Because it is hard. It is really difficult. And the more that we pretend that it isn't, and you can still love your child to the ends of the earth and back, but the more that we keep things quiet, the more it becomes a taboo to talk about the reality of it. And, I think we're doing mum such a big disservice by not sharing how real it is. Because then if you do find yourself in a really challenging spot, you internalize it and you feel like it's you. It must be something that's your problem, that's down to you. And actually, that's not the case. I think that when I know that when we speak honestly with other mums, we tend to find that we are not alone. I had a conversation yesterday with a mum who has a son, same age as Jackson, and they're both as wild as each other. And we were both saying that, like, we wish that we were not sounding so naggy all the time and not saying no all the time and not feeling so stretched, and just that we were able to be more playful. And, and it's like, these are things that we have both internalized as there's something wrong with me because I look at other mums and they seem to be able to do it. And it's like, no, we are all, to one extent or another, we all struggle with irritation. We all struggle with exhaustion, all of these things. But if we don't talk about it, then it seems like we're the only ones. And I think that we are scared of being judged for complaining or for scaring mums. And I think that actually we need to give each other more credit. We need to give each other more credit and understand that people can make their own decisions. You're an adult with your own brain. You can listen to something and use something called critical thinking to decide, I want to do that anyway. And if you do decide to do it, then you will at least be aware of the fact that there are possible challenges out there that you might have to deal with. But also, I think that we don't like to talk about these things because it's not all bad. There is so much joy in it. And I think we can feel guilty sometimes when we do have those moments of joy for kind of being negative in the moment, or quote unquote negative in the moment. And I think also we're just not very comfortable as a society, in this society anyway, of just being really honest about the emotional side of things. Conversations about mental health and the importance of mental wellness and things are getting so much more common, and that's something that social media does so well. But I think that it's just going to take a lot longer for us societally and culturally to catch up with that. I guess I just wish that there was more support for mums, and not just in the first few weeks, and also in pregnancy, but not just about pregnancy and birth. I think I just wish that there were more examples, more honest conversations, more honest stories about how much changes. And I do appreciate it's different for everyone. I always speak about context. You might have a child exact same age, live in the exact same city, be in the same relationship status, but have a very different motherhood experience to someone else, because context always matters. But I think that the more that we speak about things, the more that we provide a language for what's happening. And I wish that we had more spaces for checking in and sharing. That's why I started the Mama Circles in the first place, because there is so much that is inside that needs to come out in without being worried about being judged or being given well-meant advice. That's why I started It's a Lot, the WhatsApp group that I have for mums, because these are spaces where we can talk about these things. But I wish that they were just standard. I wish that they were things that, were on offer as much as your NCT classes or baby massage classes and things like that. Because, as I said, becoming a mother is not something that just happens once. It's a very special transition because there is no end point. It's something that just keeps unfolding. And I think that that's the part that we need to prepare each other and new mums for. So I hope that you've enjoyed that. I hope that that's maybe given you a slightly different perspective. As always, if you did find that useful or you know someone who might benefit from it, please feel free to share it. Please do share it with them. And please hit follow or leave a rating or review. It really, really, really helps to get my show out to even more mums and spread this message so that we can hopefully one day find ourselves as a society where mums honestly feel really supported every single step of the way. So thank you so much for being here with me, and I'll see you back here for the next episode.